Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Live.
Oh. So we won't talk about big things. We'll just talk about my dog drinking water in the middle of a live stream. The dog's been home by himself all freaking day, and all of a sudden now he wants to go over to the dog bowl and sound like a monster.
Okay, dude, that's really loud in my ears.
Sorry. I'll move my mic back.
No, it's just like whenever you move anything or anything, it's already loud in my eardrums, and then you did that, and it was like brutal. These guys have not been waiting for 13 minutes to hear us talk about nonsense, though.
No, that's what the rest of the show's for. All right, so on Facebook.
Nick Goyle, PJ, how you guys doing tonight? I see you guys over there on Facebook. Paul just jumped in. I gotta get my chat.
The Paul.
I probably was supposed to do this before we started, so.
Nick Cubs. Well, better luck next year.
Docs, chat. There we go. That's what we wanted. We wanted some chat action going on here. What's good, PJ? How you doing, buddy? Week 4 action. Can you believe it? We are about a quarter of the way through the season already.
Yeah, it's sad.
It is sad. It's going to go so quick.
Or you know it'll be over, and me and Paul talk Debbie.
Right, Goyle. Football only. Offense only. See, that's what it happens. We do. Hey, we talk zero defense this whole game. Okay. Since Paul wanted to go and do that shit, it is strictly football and it is strictly offense. No IDP action or talk here. Ruined it because we had some IDP stuff on the bill for tonight.
Got plenty to talk about. There's always lots of IDP to talk about.
Well, I know, but we were actually going to talk about it tonight, but Paul ruined it. He's been asking for it, and as soon as I go to deliver, he has to talk shit. So
we'll be wrapping up the IDP mock here soon, so there'll be some IDP data up on the website.
I have an echo, he says. Does that sound better? Let me know if that sounds better. I want to make sure we're good before we start. Before we start recording here. Josh Custer, Joe, how you guys doing? Yeah, cool. He says that sounds better, so we're gonna get rocking. Let's see here who we got. Looks like right now, I don't know where everybody's watching from. Okay. Recording is starting now. Welcome back to the Fantasy Football HeatSeekers podcast. I'm your host, Rick Butts, here with Bradley Menendez. He makes noise every time I go to start recording, so now he just makes faces to try to get me to laugh when I do the intro, and it did not work, bro. It did not work.
I can't hear you at all.
You can't hear me?
Now you just popped right back in now.
Dang.
It was super fade out and was gone, and then all of a sudden I hear me, and now I can hear you.
I am back. I was just talking crap about you, and then I was waiting for your response, and then you just shrugged your shoulders. So basically told
I
everybody
agreed
that,
with you.
yeah, I know, he's right. Um, wow, we were just talking. Week 3 is in the books.
Yep.
Week 4 is here. That means that we are almost a quarter of the way through the season. After this week, a good portion of teams will be a quarter of the way through their season. Um, that means we're almost a third of the way through most fantasy regular seasons.
Oh, it's sad.
And if you're in the 96ers, that means we will be a third of the way through. So, to put it simply, the shit is real now. The shit is real. Where you're at, you really have to evaluate your team and start moving in one direction or the other. The one thing that you do not want to do in fantasy football, and especially in Dynasty, is stand pat. So if you are struggling, you got to start making moves for the future. If you are in a good position, you want to start making moves to position yourself to make a run in the playoffs. So we're going to talk about a little bit of that. We're going to talk about week 4. We're going to talk about some players that have not been doing well, that have the potential to finally bust out in week 4. And we're going to talk about some players that have been playing pretty well that you might want to temper your expectations on. But first, Brad, how was your day? You got home late, so we started late. And then we had some audio problems, all kinds of them, apparently. And but now we're rolling. So how was your day?
Busy. For those that are.
Yep, nobody wants to hear this. It was really a joke. So. Busy day.
I get paid
Cool.
in smile lives for nothing. What is going on here? This is ridiculous. I'm just for that Melvin Gordon's returning to the Chargers, so my Melvin Gordon share will finally have value.
I would temper my expectations.
How dare you? Be relegated back to Nothingsville, and Melvin Gordon's going to be the man.
One, it's not even Eckler. It's the fact that
No,
that dude that you're hoping for everything from he has two bad knees. Yep. I mean, let's not forget that he ended last year with 2 bad knees, and we've seen how knee injuries can warp fantasy production. So, one bad knee has people freaking out over Todd Gurley.
An arthritis bug will get you. I'm just excited that he's reporting. Now, I'm not expecting him to light the world on fire, but I am expecting playable value, which in the roster that he's on, I need depth. So it helps me. I'm not expecting much, but I'm expecting some playable value out of him. And he can help me. And I know it. And I believe it. He's not going to be a starter. I don't have him as my number 1, but after I just traded Danny Dimes, now I know that my team's going to be set because I've got Gardner Minshew, Melvin Gordon's coming back. The world's my oyster, man.
Oh, God. The chat is saying that you sold an AB share to somebody?
Oh, yeah. In Paul's league, I sold AB not too long ago. Let me pull up the trade. Yeah, I joined.
So was it after he was released or before?
No, this was right before. It was like the weekend, like a couple days before.
So you run good, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no.
You trade AB, then he retires from the NFL after getting released, and then Melvin Gordon immediately comes back to fill his spot that you traded away. Who'd you get, and what did you get in return?
I'm looking for that trade right now.
How do you not remember a trade that happened a week ago?
I am the trade machine, man. I'm constantly pumping out trade offers. Like I've got so many leagues and so many trade offers that it's insane.
Okay, well, let's talk about
just keep
something
going.
that matters. Okay, so obviously Melvin Gordon is returning to the Chargers tomorrow. I think that Eckler is going to have a role. I think he earned a role in this offense, a bigger role than he had in past seasons. when him and Melvin Gordon were both there. I think that obviously this week Eckler has a great matchup against the hapless Miami Dolphins. So we can see some more production out of him this week, but it is going to get zapped because um, at best it's probably 60-40 for Eckler. Um, but I think he's going to stay involved in that passing game. I wouldn't expect him to get, much less than that 5 to 7 receptions he's been getting so far this year. I think they can use him in there. I think that also helps them alleviate some of those touches that they've given to Gordon, especially if they're not going to sign him and they decide that they do want to trade him. Obviously, they don't need him. They've got the backs that they can use without him. Um, what are your honest thoughts on the usage between him and Eckler? Do you think Eckler has earned a bigger role in these 3 games that um, he has played without Melvin Gordon there?
But the last couple of years, Eckler's carved out a really nice role. He is wonderful between the 20s. Like, give him some receptions and he can get you chunk yardage. That I think will be really helpful for the Chargers is they don't have to ask Eckler to be their goal line back, because you saw it especially during Detroit. Like, he's not that great at the goal line. When he tries to dive right, so the ball got popped out a couple times because the way that he carries the ball. So Gordon will help in cases like that because, Gordon's not the best goal line back, but he's better than Eckler. Eckler is going to continue to give you really good between the 20s action. So the PPR, the receptions, the chunk yardage. I mean, I think he still has a good role. And I would think it's more like 50-50 split because Eckler's come in and been a good soldier and worked his tail off and done everything they've asked. He hasn't been a great goal line back, everything else. And, Melvin Gordon's going to show up now and just think he's going to get everything back. I mean, it's just not going to work that way. Eckler's solid. He's not spectacular, but he does things really well. And, I think moving forward, it's, 60-40 is probably smart, but 50-50 I could easily see.
Do you think that the Chargers are going to try to trade Gordon before the deadline hits?
Needy teams, and with all these injuries that have been happening, I could see maybe ready for a playoff run, try to make a push for them, but it's hard to put that. I mean, that's a maybe. The Chargers would be smart to, because I don't, Melvin Gordon puts them over the top or anything anymore. Like, Eckler and Jackson are servicing them just fine. Their issue has been all the injuries on the defensive side that's been hurting them every game. So I don't think Melvin Gordon is going to really do anything to help them out in areas that they're in need. So probability of them trading him, if they still are asking for the first plus, is probably 0 because they haven't gotten it yet. But if they lighten up what they're asking for, I mean, if they ask for like a second or a third, they could probably get some buyers. What about you? What do you think?
Well, I think that they probably already did, because what has happened is obviously they didn't get any buyers, and then they saw that they don't need him as much as maybe they thought they did, even though they knew, like, they didn't have to have him. I think, going into the season, they were undefeated in games that he sat out and Eckler started. I don't know, that I could be wrong there, but
That sounds accurate.
I think this works because teams are probably wondering, if they're going to pay a good price, how are his knees?
Right.
Because it was a known issue at the end of the year. Now, the dynasty community didn't pick up on it. The fantasy football community didn't pick up on it. But he literally ended the season with both of his knees in braces. That's not good for a running back. And that's one of the reasons why the Chargers were unwilling to give him that really big deal. Now, if they're not going to trade him, then I could see them working the hell out of him.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not, I mean, if they're not planning on having him stay long term, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, if they're definitely not going to sign him, any of that. If they're planning on trading him, I could see them giving him just enough to show what contrary of that. So I have to assume that's still a possibility. But the Chargers are fine either way. When it comes to the running backs, um, they do need to get healthy in a lot of other spots, though.
Yep. They've got a lot of guys hurt, and especially key players on the defense.
I will say that for all of you Keenan Allen owners, when Gordon gets back into the lineup, you're probably not going to be getting 17 targets a game.
Probably not.
You know, Allen is great, but you're probably not going to get that. But other than that, you know, I'm not a big Gordon guy. Maybe this extra time off helps his knees. But you know, when you're a running back end the year with 2 knees and braces,
you know,
especially when you see what one bad knee is doing to Gurley.
Well, and I wonder, you know, in Gurley's case, when he's gotten the ball this year, he's still looked just as good as he was last year. Like, it's hard for me to tell, is it that they're trying to be safe and smart with him? Because he's looked really decisive running the ball. He's looked like he's still got the burst. Like, you know, it's hard for me to tell how much of it is the coaching staff wanting to keep their best running back healthy and how much of it is truly he's lost it. You know, he's losing a step with that bad knee. Like, I mean, that's, you know, obviously I'm not the smartest guy in the room, so.
Yeah, that whole offense hasn't really clicked yet
No.
in LA. So I don't know if that is because they're not utilizing Gurley more, because obviously he used to be utilized 20, 25 rushes and 4 or 5 catches per game, and the dude was scoring 1 to 2 touchdowns per game. And that definitely affects the offense. But he's been effective. He hasn't looked bad. Week 1, he had 2 touchdowns vultured, and I don't know if that was just because he was on the field for X amount of plays and they pulled him out to get him rest, or they just don't want to put him in that position. They keep saying that he's not on a limited touch count or snap count or anything like that, but the usage doesn't go with what we're used to seeing. We kind of thought that would come down, but I thought that his red zone usage would be the same as it's always been. I figured that if they were going to hold him back, it would be in the middle of the field and then use him as, you know, your red zone threat, whether it's through the air or rushing wise.
Right.
But we haven't seen that to this point. It is worrisome.
Yeah.
I didn't, you know, I obviously moved him down. I just got a Todd Gurley blurb. Todd Gurley is averaging fewer than 15 carries per game in 2019. The Rams would like to get that to 25.
Wow.
So there we go. That
Breaking news, people.
Breaking news right in the middle of that conversation. We haven't had that happen very many times. If they get back to that 25, you ain't got nothing to worry about. And unless they keep vulturing him and using Brown for the goal line stuff,
yeah,
Gurley's going to see his. Gurley's going to get his. And I think they probably realized after 3 games, Todd Gurley is a key to our offense and us being successful. Because I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you're talking about Jared Goff. I don't care if you're talking about almost any other quarterback. I mean, unless it's Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes right now, a running game can help your quarterback. And when it comes to young quarterbacks especially, if you're not running the ball, then you're putting your quarterback in a bad spot.
Right. Well, especially obviously, Goff. He needs that.
I mean, literally any of them. I don't, other than Mahomes and Brady.
Danny Dimes makes up his own rushing yards.
Right? Maybe even, you know, Rodgers and Breeze. But for these young guys and average to good quarterbacks, not your great quarterbacks, they need that running game. And if you don't establish it, it's rough on them.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I wrestle with the medical side of things is, you know, they mention, you know, arthritis and this, that, and the other. These guys are still in their mid-20s. It feels for me like you really won't see any major side effects from that until after their playing career is over. Guys that I've known that have played any kind of professional sport that have had any kind of, issues or injuries, years for them to really see any big side effects from it. Now, I can't say I know a lot. I mean, just like two guys that were like semi-pro. So it wasn't like they were like major leaguers or anything, but their injuries back into playing shape and they were good to go. But then once they hit their 30s and on, then they really started to see some, oh man, it started to catch up to them. So these two guys for another 2-3 years, I could see them being valuable. And Gordon for sure, because Gordon's already 26 with bad knees.
There's also a big difference between the two injuries, right? So
right.
Gurley's wasn't structural. It's arthritis. So it's more pain management than anything else. It's not like he, tore a bunch of, he did earlier, and that's, potentially where the arthritis is coming from.
Right.
But Gordon he was in braces because of structural stuff. And that's why I always said in the offseason, like, I understand if you're moving Gurley down, but if you're moving Gurley down because of arthritis, then you have to pay attention to what's going on with both of Melvin Gordon's knees.
Right.
So obviously, if they're wanting to get him back to 25, then they've probably found after the first 3 games the pain management's fine. He's not having any, crazy pain in that knee on 15 touches. So, maybe we'll see 20 touches for a couple games, and then we'll get up to the 25 if everything's good.
Yeah. I'm just looking over Gordon's injury history. I mean, the dude's been hurt a lot, but nothing like. So he's had an MCL sprain grade 2, a PCL sprain grade 2, a knee tear, an ankle sprain, a hip sprain. I mean, a lot of lower body stuff that adds up. I mean, not nearly as much as Gurley.
Oh man, it running backs is all about the legs, man. That's where their power comes from, and if you lose that lower body, and you can disappear real quick in the NFL.
Right.
So, I'm not rooting for that for the guy, but we're talking about a guy that had not been efficient for his first few years in the league, and then he finally had an efficient year last year, but then leaves with 2 bum knees. So, what do we expect? And what happens with that inefficiency is as soon as you like you said, if he gets down to 50-50 on carries, on touches, then you don't get that fantasy production because it was all volume based before last year. It was strictly volume that made him a fantasy asset. You lose that, you lose everything.
Paul said, lost in this is Gordon basically caved. Well, he had to. He had he had nothing to lean on.
Yeah, it wasn't like Le'Veon Bell where he was going to be a free agent next year, and it wasn't like Zeke where his team actually freaking needed him.
Yeah.
Like, Zeke makes the Cowboys a Super Bowl contender. Gordon may make the Chargers a little bit better, but it's not.
But they're not predicated on him. Like, they've always been a pass first team, and just so happened that Gordon was solid.
Right, and they don't have to have him.
Right. So.
Okay, I had another news blurb that I was gonna say something about, and so I just posted this in the Facebook group. Rex Ryan was talking about Mr. Baker Mayfield being overrated and how he fell into it too, and all this, and Baker heard about it, and during the presser today he said he doesn't wear brown and orange, and that's the only colors that matter. He doesn't even wear any colors, and there's a reason for that.
Ouch.
Yeah. Neither of the guys are wrong. When I put the post out, I said Baker's not wrong. Rex Ryan was a very overrated head coach. Defense, 0 offense. And then, but no, I mean, Baker was overrated, and
he's not playing like a superstar so far. That's for sure.
And it's not that he can't be, because like Rex Ryan said something about him being an MVP candidate and people calling that and whatnot. Maybe not this year. I wouldn't say that Baker couldn't win an MVP in his career. Obviously, this season hasn't started out the way they want, but
Kid's only in year 2. I mean, he's still so young in his playing career. Gotta give him time to
well,
mature.
people got lost in the fact that he threw all those touchdowns last year, but he also turned the ball over a lot. But they saw them touchdowns. They got Mahomes fever, and Baker being a rookie, everybody thought he had the potential to be the following year's Mahomes. And what we have found out is that you're not the next Mahomes. Mahomes is the only Mahomes, and
That dude's not real. I don't think he's a real person. I think he's a
no,
robot.
I think he's an alien for
Maybe he's the
sure.
Terminator and we just don't realize it.
Right. Um,
We need to talk about the Ajayi news that he might be ready to play football again from his ACL issue last year.
when has he ever played football? Well, he played 3 games where he rushed for over 200 yards, but those are the only 3 that he's ever showed up for.
I'm not saying he was a good football player. I'm just saying that
No, I'm just
with all these running back injuries, there was a report today that he's probably ready to resume playing football maybe next week.
I just love those stats where everybody used to be so high on Ajayi, and I'd be like, this dude's played like 40 games, and like 60% of his production came in 3.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it's an exaggerated amount of production in 3 games. Kind of nuts, but we haven't even talked about that. We did a little bit on Sunday, but Barkley being out, the 4 to 8 weeks could be a little longer. But we won't dig too deep into that. But as of now, Wayne Gallman's the guy. He saw like all the snaps after Barkley went out.
But didn't
Not sure.
lead the team in rushing.
Yeah, but I'm not. I mean, once again, when you're the running back behind Barkley, you don't expect to go into the game.
No, not at all.
You don't expect to be the guy, and he was kind of thrust into that. So we'll have to see how he does this week against the Redskins. We'll talk about that a little bit once we get into this week's schedule and whatnot and matchups we like. But there are already rumors that one Mr. Tyreek Hill could be a week or 2 away from coming back. And apparently he was bouncing around before the game or before practice on Monday, all happy, arm not in a sling anymore. And they're saying that he looks like a guy. His timetable's already been moved up multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And then and he's looking real happy and ready to get back out there. So for you, Demarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman, lover boys out there, your time is going to be abruptly coming to an end here pretty soon, it sounds like.
Sooner rather than later, that's for sure.
He was a DFS monster on the late slate at Boise. Won some cash there.
He's talking about Jai.
Oh. I didn't even play DFS back then, so.
You know, Paul. He's the Devy. He's a Devy guy, so he's all about the college ball.
Well, he should be rich then, because there's plenty of money to make doing college DFS. And there's plenty of games every week to bet.
Yeah,
only like 150 of them.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes. At least this first week and next week, and see how quickly he'll return. I mean, because that type of injury, you don't see it very often, so it's hard to gauge how much of a risk he is for re-injuring it if they push him back too soon.
Oh yeah, but
that's my concern. What do they have to hurry him back for if they're winning with nobody?
Because they paid him a bunch of money.
Well, I'm just saying, Patrick Mahomes could probably throw the ball and catch it himself if he wanted to. This guy seems.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I assume that they wouldn't put him back in there, if he's not healthy. So I have to assume that he's just either wasn't injured as badly as they thought, or he's just you know, like Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, that dude's 30-some and came back quicker than we thought he was going to come back. So Hunter Henry, same way with his first injury. He just got hurt again, a different one. Um, but I mean, I'm sorry to tell everybody, Demarcus Robinson, Mecole Hardman, as long as Watkins and uh, Hill are healthy, they might have a game here and there, but they're not gonna. You're not gonna be able to start them week in and week out. Um, Ramsey, we talked about him calling in sick. Well, now he's not showing up because of a baby being born.
A little bit more of a legitimate reason.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he even has a baby on the way, or if he's just saying like, I got some rando pregno, and now I gotta go watch my baby be borno.
Just watching it on YouTube. Watching a baby be born.
They're streaming it on their Facebook group.
Tough thing is, you're like, everything that I like, everybody that I follow, everybody that I see talk about Ravens, like nobody's really close to a deal. You know, like you always, as deals get close to happening, you start to hear whispers. Well, these are the teams that are real close, and these are the teams that could be. But like every reporter I hear that I talk to via Twitter, all of them, from Ian Rappaport on down to like the Detroit Free Press guy that I follow, like they're all saying it'd be great if these teams did, but nobody's talking about a deal. So I don't know if Ramsey's going to get what he wants this year. I mean, unless something crazy happens.
I don't know, man. Some of these bigger names, though, it doesn't get out as much. They're a lot more tight-lipped on it. Like, nobody saw the Bears with
Oh, with
Khalil
William
Mack.
Mack. Yeah,
Like,
no,
that
you're right.
came out of nowhere. I didn't. Um, I don't know, man. It's just football's so much more fun now that people actually get traded and moved around. All right. Let's talk about some guys that have not done well so far this season. Actually, are we even up on YouTube?
I know I can check. Let's see here.
YouTube been coming out.
They're coming out hard.
Yeah.
Let's see here. No, it doesn't look like it.
Really?
Oh, yeah, no, it's live.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we're there. Normally
Okay,
on the
cool.
sidebar it tells me that we're live, but it didn't this time. It just so happened. Yeah. Nothing's
Can
going
I?
on.
Sounds like Paul wants to sell Zay Jones for $2. Um. Oh no, we have the Zay Jones bet, don't we? No, I'm holding you hostage. You got my $5. I got to get my $5 back. That's what it was, right? I don't even remember what the bet was, but you reminded me, so I gotta remind me what that bet was, and then I'll tell you. Oh, he ain't no wide receiver 3. I'm holding on that. I gotta get my $5 back. Um,
Yeah, he might not even be a wide receiver 4 or 5. I've done nothing.
does it double if he doesn't even get to wide receiver 6? Does the bet double? Um, okay, so we've got some players, and we saw this last week. People overreacting to guys that have started slow. We say this all the time. You cannot be reactionary. You cannot be emotional. Sometimes you're going to have to sell guys, but you don't want to be selling guys low. And I'm seeing Stephon Diggs get traded for Terry McLaurin.
No, not even close.
I saw this trade. 1v1, Diggs traded for McLaurin.
That's highway robbery.
You guys can't do that. You're going to hurt yourself so bad. I mean, I understand McLaurin has started out so strong. He's done something that no receiver's ever done, 5 receptions and a touchdown in his first 3 games.
It doesn't matter.
I'll settle for $3, Paul. I'll settle for $3. It's way too early. We know Stephon Diggs is good, right? And we had this conversation, Blair Dickey and I, on the Facebook group today. Because one of the questions is, do I start Philip Dorsett or do I start Stephon Diggs? It's even a question we were asked on YouTube,
Ride or die.
and is up. Well, it's not even that. Okay, people are just looking at box scores. Um,
Yeah, but Diggs is better. I mean, hands down better.
um, Here's the deal, right? So when the Vikings are winning by a lot, they're not going to throw the ball.
Right.
Okay,
Oh, sure.
two of their games they've ran the ball a ton because they've won by double digits touchdowns. They won by two or more touchdowns, double digit points, and threw very little. One game he got 3 targets, the other game he got 2 targets. And the other game was a close game against Green Bay. He saw 7 targets. Now, only one of those was converted for a 49-yard touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So, still doesn't look great on the box score. But these people are looking at the box score and they're not paying attention to anything else. Okay, for one, Philip Dorsett faces off against Buffalo. Okay, so you guys are the IDP guys. Paul's in the chat.
Their defense is
Brad's here.
brutal.
Tre'Davious White is really good, and that's who they're calling is going to be on Dorsett right now. Even if he moves over to Gordon, you get Wallace, and Wallace is a good cover corner.
He's not White good, but he's good. He's good enough to shut down Dorsett.
Right. So terrible matchup. Now people also see Chicago and they think, oh God, I don't want to play anybody against Chicago.
But Chicago gets thrown on them.
If Chicago's defense is a pass funnel, we just saw Terry McLaurin go for 20 and Paul Richardson go for 22.
Yep.
Okay.
And Emmanuel Sanders before that. I mean,
every week you're going to see that, right? The wide receiver 2 is typically the one that hurts the Bears. That's whoever Will Fuller's covering. Guess who Will Fuller covers when they play the Vikings?
Stephon Diggs.
Diggs. And he's going to get targeted, and I don't care, okay? They're going to have to throw the ball more just because the Bears shut down the running game, and that's how the Bears defense does. They're going to make you throw the ball. That's why they get so many turnovers.
Right.
When you look at the Vikings, their passing offense is so concentrated. Thielen sees like 41%. Diggs sees like 40%. So it's them two. They're going to get the targets. So if they throw the ball 25 times, they're both going to see 8 to 10 targets. Minimum. In this game. Diggs is a play this week. Don't sit him for Dorsett. Please don't do it. So who's a player that you've had well, for one, what do you think of Diggs a little bit? And then give us a player that you've got your eye on that started slow. And if you're in the chat, if there's a player you're worried about, drop them. We'll give you an opinion.
Yeah, I like Diggs more than Thielen, athletic ability wise. Obviously in that offense, Thielen is their number one, but Diggs won't stay down for long. Just like some of the guys that we'll mention, they're just too talented to stay dormant for too long. Like Diggs is going to bounce back. He's going to have a breakout game, and then everybody's going to go back to normal and knowing that he's solid. You know, just like some of these other guys we talk about. Over on YouTube, Mr. Derwios asked about who he should play, DJ Chark or John Ross. I responded DJ Chark because Gardner loves DJ Chark, and John Ross is, well, hit or miss at best. So that's what's going on YouTube. They're not asking about specific players. They're just asking.
Oh, so my chat's not working.
Who to start set? Yeah, this just came up here a moment ago.
It's not showing me.
Isn't showing you anything?
No, which means that we could be getting more Twitch or Twitch, YouTube, and the Facebook page. All of them run through this chat thing, and it's not telling me any.
I've got Facebook and YouTube up. I'll pull up Twitch here.
I do want to. Well, first I gotta know the matchups because I don't care who Minshew likes.
Jacksonville's matchup isn't that difficult. Jacksonville's going against Denver, and Denver's pass defense has been sloppy.
Denver's pass defense is actually good. He's probably gonna have Harris on him.
Well, it's been good, but they've also been sloppy and they have injuries going on. What's his name is hurt right now and will be out. One of their defensive backs, and then John Ross and the Bengals are facing, I think, Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh. Monday night.
I want to know if Shark has Harris on him, because if Shark has Harris on him, then I'm not touching him. Actually, I've got my cornerback matchups right here. I just got to change my slates. Thursday to Monday.
Let's see here.
Yeah, right now they're calling for him to be shadowed by Harris.
That'll be a tough one.
And if we look at John Ross, right?
He's Cincinnati. He's going against Pittsburgh.
Joe Hayden.
So
neither of them.
Neither are good matchups this week.
No, they have Hayden rated as a 57, and they have Shark is on Harris. Both cornerbacks are rated at a 57, so it's a toss up.
I think Shark will get more targets, which may give him more opportunity to at least get some receptions. John Ross isn't their number one. You got to remember, Tyler Boyd's still their most targeted guy, plays the most snaps.
D.D. Westbrook is still getting targeted more than Shark too.
That is very true.
It's a toss-up for me. Both of them are going to be boom or bust most weeks. But the one thing we haven't seen is Shark really covered by a guy like Harris either. So far this year.
Who was covering him against Tennessee? Wasn't what's his name in Tennessee covering him?
Wasn't
Adoree Jackson on?
I don't know. May have been. I don't know. We're split decision. I'm going John Ross because in that situation I want the boom. I want the guy that could go. He's seen 12 targets this year in a game, so.
All right, Mr. Derwio is over on YouTube. We're down the middle, so Rick says John Ross is a GOAT. Greatest all time.
That is not the truth. That is not the truth. Maybe you have Stephon Diggs on your roster and you're not starting him. Throw him in, sit both of those guys. And Paul's right, dude. The one thing Denver hasn't done is sack a guy or had a turnover. And this seems like the game that they explode.
Whoa. He's
Chubb and
Gardner Minshew.
I understand that you love Gardner Minshew, but this seems like the perfect game for them to get off that 0 turnover, 0 sack.
Awesome.
Dude, the thing that people don't realize is that fantasy, I don't care who they are, it comes down to touches. And the Vikings, when they win by 2 touchdowns, are going to run the ball.
Absolutely. No way around it.
I'm laughing just for Paul. But when the Vikings win like that, they're not going to throw the ball. So Diggs, you might hate him right now, but I've been telling you all off season that they were going to throw the ball less.
Well, they've been talking about wanting to run the ball more,
but nobody wanted to believe it, and nobody's mad at Thielen, but Thielen's been lucky. Also, he literally stole a rushing touchdown from Dalvin Cook last week. There's 6 points you should not have. Sometimes you get bailed out, and he bailed people out with a rushing touchdown. So it's not like he's doing all his through the air. Week 1, he had that early touchdown and then nothing the rest of the game. But this is a week to play those guys. They're going to get the targets and they're going to get fantasy points. So who's a player you're worried about? Gardner Minshew.
No, I'm not worried about him. I know that he will handle his business. I got my Jaguars Minshew jersey in the mail. All right.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I ordered one.
What? Did you order it through our link?
Yeah, through Fanatics, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
clicked on
through
the
the Fanatic
link
links.
and
Uh-huh.
okay,
Heck
good.
yeah, man. Gotta hook up that Minshew. I've been talking about him for like weeks now. I better at least support the guy, right?
the
What kind,
dude's
what kind
the
of
dude's
fan
gonna
would
get
I be?
dude's gonna get replaced in week 6, and you're gonna be like, oh my god, I can't believe I paid for this jersey.
If you see my closet full of jerseys, there's quite a few of those.
You haven't told
Um,
us what player you're worried about.
I, I guess the guy for me has got to be the biggest one would be Jarvis Landry. Like, what in the world is going on in Cleveland? Like, dude, it's just,
So basically, you're saying all of Cleveland.
well,
Because outside of an 87-yard touchdown by Odell, like, it hasn't been good for any of them.
no, it has it. Well, it hasn't, but it's gotten worse every week for Jarvis. Like, he just hasn't produced at all. Week one he had like I don't know 12 or 15 fantasy points and just gotten worse. And it's like, dude,
Yeah, but
why is this
I mean,
offense not clicking?
none of them have though. I mean, even Odell, outside of that one play, like it's not been good for any of those guys. Let's look. Where's Odell at here? Oh, not in the top. Oh, 18. Okay, so he had an 87-yard touchdown. That is in PPR formats. That is 87, 14.7, 15.7.
Right, it's not great.
Okay, he's got 34.8 on the season.
Yeah, right.
So, um, let's look down. Where is our boy Landry? And I'm not saying this has been good for Landry at all. Obviously, it hasn't. But my point is just that. What the heck?
It's the whole team. I mean, it's not just.
Landry, 17.1. So outside of that one play, they're basically the same guy through 3 weeks. Obviously, that one play counts, so we're not discounting that. But
The funnier thing is that he's actually, Landry's gotten more snaps by like 5 over Odell, and it's like wow, like this whole offense has just been, I mean, it's been rough, obviously, but that's a guy that in a lot of places that I was trying to buy low on, hoping that hey, all this Odell stuff will take coverages that way, and Jarvis will just eat, and that really hasn't happened, at least through 3 weeks. Maybe I get lucky and they turn it on, but so far it's not been so good.
yeah, I mean, that whole offense has to improve. And when that offense improves, then you're going to see Odell improve. You're going to see Landry improve. There's no, Njoku, so it's going to be those two guys. Those two guys are going to get the targets. Higgins is going to get some. Taylor's getting some downfield looks. But those two guys, if that offense improves, are going to be fine. You
Absolutely.
know, um, Landry's not going to be a wide receiver one. Odell will.
Right.
If the
No. Yeah.
offense, it all depends on that offense actually improving and Baker Mayfield improving. Um, Corey Davis, another one for me.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've had
Big
this
fan.
conversation. I've, it's it reminds me of Alshon Jeffrey's first year in Philly. Started with some terrible matchups. Um, and everybody jumps ship, and then we see. Oh, I was wondering, like, why is this video like this? Well, Brad's is covering mine. I'm OCD, guys, and I'm H. Yeah,
All my videos come over on yours. I see it
ADHD.
now.
Yeah, it's driving me nuts. Um, but the matchups have not been favorable. For those that are jumping ship right now, you should probably just wait and see if it changes with some more favorable matchups. Okay, I'm leaving you right there. I always get sidetracked. Are you watching the other chats? I want to make sure
Yeah,
I'm
I've
not
got I've
missing
got
anybody.
YouTube and Facebook open, and I got Twitch open.
Okay, cool. I want to make sure we're not ignoring anybody.
Oh,
This whole thing has been a mess since we started.
hey, you know what? We're human. It ain't gonna be perfect every time.
Oh, absolutely. Trying to see if I can. Nope. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, Davis, he's had the three, non-favorable matchups to start the season. I don't even know that this is a favorable matchup against Atlanta, but I think it's better than the three that he's had so far.
I think with
Um,
Keanu Neal being on IR, I think that helps because he would be a guy that would roll over to cover a wide receiver like Corey Davis. So with Neal on IR, I mean that could help him, if they target him a little bit more.
how is Isaiah Oliver? Is he any good?
He's okay. I mean, he's not. I don't think he could hang with a guy like Corey Davis if he was the guy that's on him.
That's who they have covering him right now.
He should be able to. He should be able to handle him well, because the guy doesn't press very well. So that what I've noticed so far this year is Corey Davis has had trouble with guys that are bumping him at the line, and really staying physical with him. But Isaiah Oliver's not that physical.
But I think that obviously, they're another team that runs the ball a lot. They're slow paced. Uh, but I do expect, Ward, Desir, Ramsey to start the season. That only gets better. He's still seeing a decent market share of the targets, but obviously, um, tight coverage, not the best targets, not from the best quarterback. We're also hearing rumors. There's already been questions of whether Mariota will be getting replaced. That could come as soon as week 5 or 6. Um, just from the grumblings, the coaching staff saying he's still our guy. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a move made if he doesn't play a little bit better.
Uh, well, the thing that for me is it's like how much of it.
The thing for you is I just traded for Marcus Mariota, and I don't like hearing that.
Well, no, because Marcus Mariota, the offense as a whole. I mean, a lot of these offenses haven't looked like they've been clicking. Now, Mariota's had some trouble, outside of that Week 1 matchup where they annihilated Cleveland. Like, he's not been super efficient with the ball, and I don't know what the deal with that is. Like, I've only watched the Tennessee game, the last two games, not nearly enough to know if it's the way they're scheming and Mariota's making bad decisions, or because he's not been as efficient as he was the first game, or even last year. Last year he was well above 60% on the average for the year, but so I don't really know what to make of these three games. Like, and yes, I do. I only have one share of Mariota though. The only share I own of Mariota is the one I got from you. And it's only because I'm so desperate at that in that league. I'm like, I need some quarterback help. So, but I don't know. I mean, that whole team since Vrabel's come, and even before with I can't think of the dude's name, but he's now the offensive line coach of Pittsburgh. That offense just has looked rough. Like it's never really seemed to click for a full season. So I don't. Is it Mariota? Is he just not an NFL quarterback? Is it the offense they're running? I mean,
I've seen a lot of games where their play calling made zero sense to me. Not saying that it's not Mariota. Mariota obviously does have his issues. Austin says upgrading from Mariota to Tannehill is like the Jets upgrading to Gase, but the
yeah.
truth is, one, you can blame Gase all you want, but when your quarterback's kissing trannies and getting mono, and then your second quarterback breaks an ankle in his first game, and you're down to Luke Falk,
Nobody's winning with that.
you're just falked. And
You're-
that's just the way it is. But I'm not saying Gase is great, but we can't determine what
good
he
offensive
was doing until they get until they get Darnold back and see what happens. But Tannehill's at least accurate. And when we're talking about bad offense, like he also was very limited. They forced him into Devontae Parker's your number one wide receiver
for
for
his
his
entire
entire
career.
career. So we could see a little bit of difference in that case. I don't know, but if he's not getting the targets, then he needs to, and then you see what happens. But they want Corey Davis to be successful. They took him 5th overall.
And he's got the talent to be. I mean, the dude, in the little bit of opportunity he's getting, he makes the most of it. I mean, he's a very good receiver. I've tried to buy him everywhere I can. And if you're listening and you're in a league with me and you want to sell me Corey Davis and I don't have him, I'll take him still.
I'm right there with you. Worst case is these quarterbacks suck this year and the Titans get one in the draft next year, because the Titans have a good defense. They have a good running game. If they weren't trailing all the time, they could use it. Derrick Henry's a good NFL player. I don't like him for fantasy. He is running back 5 right now, but right now one big game can put you in the top 6 at your position. Ask Mike Evans.
Very quickly.
So, who's another player for you you're worried about?
I think I've got to go with Seattle's running backs. I don't understand what's going on with Chris Carson. Like, before this year, he never had any issues with fumbles. The dude's fumbled every game so far. Like, that's a little concerning to me.
4 fumbles in 3 games.
That's brutal for a guy who's never had fumbling issues. Now, that's fixable. We saw it with Tiki Barber in New York. Most of his career he had fumbling issues. Then all of a sudden he kind of figured out how to lessen it and get better. But so that concerns me, especially because Penny's hurt, and I don't think Penny's as good and physical a runner as Carson is. So that's a concern to me. I don't really know what to make of it. The coaching staff, obviously, what you're hearing is he's still our guy, but kind of has to be. Penny's still missing practice.
Right. You're not gonna be like, hey, let's call up Jay Ajayi.
We're benching you for CJ Procise. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen, So that's a concern to me. Right now, I'm not, if any of my Carson shares, I'm not selling them just yet.
You can't.
No. But, if there's a guy out there, there's a guy in one of my leagues that is 0-3. So I sent him a couple, hey, what's the tag on Carson? I wouldn't mind getting him. He's not budging yet, but, so. What about you? Who's your guy? Or what do you think about Carson? Sorry.
No, I think Carson's clearly the best running back there, but the fumbling issues are definitely, just weird. This is never a concern. Our concern when we talked or drafted or anything Chris Carson was never that, can this guy hold on to the ball? That was never came up, was never talked about, and then all of a sudden, the dude can't hold on to the ball. I don't know, man. Now it's a mental thing. It's not just, how he's holding the ball. It's a mental thing. I didn't watch the game, but I heard people, talking about how he was on the sideline in the second half, looking very distraught, and that's worrisome to me. Luckily, I own 0 Carson shares, but I would like to put him in my DFS lineups and not worry about fumbles and him coming out in the second quarter. But yeah, I mean, I still think he's better than Penny. He would have been a dude. You know what? I might go buy some shares.
If you can get them, I mean, so far I've sent a few offers out and none of the owners are biting, and one of the offers I just shot them a 2021st and said, are you interested? And they're like, no. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have a fan player. Paul says Duke Johnson is another worrisome player. And I laughed, and maybe I was wrong, but I laughed when everybody was like, Houston never throws to the running back. Houston never throws to the running back. They're not throwing to the running back. And I don't understand why you would ever go get Duke Johnson, pay a third, and not throw to the running back.
Yeah.
It's like Watson just wants to heave the ball down the field. When you look at the ADOT of every wide receiver on this team, it's like money, but Duke Johnson, man, like that would open up so much for their offense too. Can you imagine how much more that would open it up for Will Fuller and Hopkins on the outside if they had to start worrying about that,
Something out of the
sharp pass
backfield.
game?
Yeah, I know. It
Because
would be
Kiki
huge.
Kuti isn't doing it.
No, it would be huge. I mean, Duke Johnson, he's so talented. Like he's so much more talented than Carlos Hyde. Like, but Carlos Hyde's getting all the touches. It's like, what in the world is going on?
I did want to look and see what Carlos Hyde's line looked like last week. Houston, where you at? Where you at? I gotta move video. Houston. There we go. Box score. Okay, Carlos Hyde. Oh, I mean, they ran the ball really well. Carlos Hyde, 10 carries, 19 yards, 1.9 average. But he bails out his truthers with a touchdown.
Yep.
Deshaun Watson, 7 carries, 18 yards for 2.6 average. Duke Johnson, 2 carries for 1 yard. They rushed 19 times for 39 yards in that game. And they managed to win.
It wasn't because of their running game. But when you look at like the snap counts, I mean, Duke Johnson after week 1 is only seeing about 50% of the snaps on offense. So they're pretty well even 50-50 split. But unfortunately, that 50-50 split isn't getting him anything. So Duke Johnson, I mean, unless they do something drastic to change the way they utilize him, it could still be a wash for him. I mean,
here's my question. I want to know if other people out there think the same thing. But I feel like if Duke Johnson was utilized in the same way that Austin Eckler is utilized, he could be the same type of player.
Easily.
Maybe not as productive, but Jesus, why will nobody use him? All he does is produce when he gets used.
No.
That's all he's ever done.
But honestly, I mean, coming out, I thought Duke Johnson was a much more talented running back. I mean, by far. Much more athletically gifted than Austin Eckler ever would have been. And Eckler's been huge in San Diego or Los Angeles. But Duke just keeps crapping the bed, man. Just not working.
Duke does not crap the bed.
Well, the team does it on him, but
okay, the team craps.
It's not
on
his
him.
fault. Yeah, the team craps on his bed.
We won't even go there. Are you checking for chat messages?
No, I'm looking. There's nothing out there.
Who else are you guys worried about? I want to know who you guys are worried about.
One that I think the community was big on. I was never a huge fan of, but you mentioned him a little bit earlier. Is D.D. Westbrook? Like people were like super pumped about D.D. Westbrook, and it's been okay. I mean, nothing special, but you'd think in the way that people talked in the offseason about him, like he was going to be, the next big thing, and just been a guy, nothing special.
You are just trying to sell this Minshew to Shark stuff so much. It's great. I love it because you must have just looked at your chat in YouTube because I literally just pulled it up. You must have been looking at it too, and you're like, Shark's the guy. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying Shark's the guy. Like Shark, I thought Shark was a raw prospect coming out. He had size, he had speed, but I couldn't tell if he could run a route to save his life. I'm just saying that D.D. Westbrook's looked like a guy this year. Keelan Cole's been nowhere to be found. I mean, it's such a weird.
Keelan Cole's not there.
Like it just doesn't make any sense. Keelan Cole was kind of the ascending guy, and then all of a sudden it just was D.D. Westbrook, and then now it's neither. I mean, both are just kind of guys right now.
Westbrook's getting the targets. Your guy just can't hit him.
Or is the guy not catching them? I'm just kidding. No, it's definitely.
I think he had 11 targets.
Yeah, I was just pulling up their.
Okay, so here's a tool that I like to use. Okay, it's called airyards.com. Have you ever looked at it? This gives you and shows you weighted opportunity, and you can break it down by weeks so you can see who has done well
Oh yeah, look at that.
recently.
Receiver efficiency.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So, right now, Shark has had a higher opportunity than anybody else on the team. We already knew that. Um, but D.D. Westbrook has had more targets. So I think the production is going to come for Westbrook, but his is volume. His is purely based on volume, right? When
Right.
Shark doesn't hit a big score, he's like think Marquise Brown in week 3.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's just what you get with a guy like Shark. His stuff's downfield. You're seeing him and Conley have an average depth of target, A dot, of almost 15 yards each. That's great for them big explosive games, but when you're not hitting that downfield stuff, it becomes a 2 for 30 and you're bummed out because you didn't score those fantasy points.
Right.
Whereas Didi can go, 5 for 40 and get you 9 points almost every week. So that's just when he falls into the end zone, it's a better week. But think all your PPR guys. Didi might just be like a glorified Cole Beasley, or maybe he turns into more of an Edelman type.
Yeah. Paul says Fournette is worrisome.
Okay.
Let's see, for Fournette, it's that offensive line. I mean, we talked about it the other day.
Fournette and Mixon both fall into that category for me. That same exact category where they get hit 2 yards behind the line and have zero chance. Fournette had -8 yards on like 9 carries before his 66-yard outburst the other night. That's just bonkers. We finally seen Mixon break out this week too. But man, they got to help those guys. Long term, I'm not worried about it. Well, I might be, because it's kind of like, David Carr getting sacked a billion times and then quitting. Like these dudes are getting, and it's not like Fournette was, I didn't watch the Bengals, but it's not like Fournette was getting hit by one guy. There was like 3 guys hitting him 2 yards in the backfield. Like there was literally no shot.
Yeah, very true.
And then he says Trubisky and Pettis too. Trubisky, like quarterbacks that I'm worried about. Trubisky, Winston,
Mariota, obviously.
Carr, Mariota. All those guys are worrisome to me. We've seen Winston have a good first half against the Giants, and then the second half, not a whole lot. Trubisky, good first half against the Redskins. Fantasy-wise, both of these guys, if you watch some of the plays, they weren't great even in the first half. But the second half's nothing. Seeing Mariota, nothing. Carr, first game, started out like 22 for 25. Thought we got 2016 Carr back. Since then, nothing. And then most of the other guys that we were worried about have been replaced already. So
Right.
Eli Manning's gone, so that's fine. So yeah, I've never been one. And this is the thing that always drove me nuts with me and Paul's discussions, is I've never been one that was like, Trubisky's a great quarterback. He put up fantasy points last year because he was running the ball more. Their play calling's horrendous. He's missing everybody. He's making me look like an idiot because every time he throws to Anthony Miller, he misses him.
He does. Poor Anthony Miller.
It's crazy. Miller is getting so open, and Trubisky cannot hit him. It was the same way with Mike Evans in the first couple weeks. With Winston, Mike Evans was seeing the targets, but they could not connect because they were not good. A lot of them were not good throws.
No.
It's so frustrating watching these guys. Corey Davis, these guys are like helpless
because of their
at the
quarterback.
hands of their quarterback. And we saw it. I mean, look at just the difference that Daniel Jones made for the Giants.
Yeah, it was huge.
And it's frustrating for me as a Bears fan because literally, if the Bears would have overdrafted Mahomes in that situation, like the
Completely
Bears
different.
might not lose a game.
With that defense, it'd be disgusting.
Yeah, it would be stupid. But yeah, it's definitely it. It's annoying. It's annoying.
Well, and I could build the narrative that the last three guys you had mentioned, Winston, Mariota, and Carr, are starting on different teams next year. I mean, like that's just the way things are going for them.
You know what? Somebody made a good point, and I don't know because I don't know how. You see these mock drafts now; they mean nothing to where they'll be in April of next year.
Right.
But with a lot of the teams that have, the young quarterbacks and the backups and whatnot, that some of these talented quarterbacks could fall into the second round. The Bears should have a top end second round pick to use on a quarterback because they have the Raiders pick from the Khalil Mack trade.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh,
they could have an early second, and
maybe they snatch up, one of these quarterbacks that falls.
the Bears could have. It is realistic. The Bears literally took Trubisky ahead of Mahomes and Watson.
Which is silly.
Like they could have, they could have definitely taken either of those. They could have traded back in the draft and got one of the, if they could have taken any of those three guys, and they took the wrong one. That's what I'm saying. Um, yeah, and John Fox was no good, and Nagy play calling is terrible. Um, yeah, let's talk about something else. I'm angry. We're
Well,
2-1, and I'm angry.
yeah, Pettis is another one that doesn't make sense. I mean, this week he had kind of a breakout. Got a touchdown and he saved it a little bit, but it seemed weird. First there was the kidney type injury, and then it was he just wasn't getting used. And like, is he in the doghouse? Is he not in the doghouse? Like, what's the deal there? So I would expect for him to maybe get a little bit more back on track. Um, as the season progresses, because obviously Garoppolo likes him. We saw it. He's in the game.
Yeah,
Goes in him.
yeah, I do think that I'm less worried about Pettis this week than if you would have brought this up last week. Because I think they finally did get him involved. But I think that only helps Debo, that only helps Goodwin, that only helps Kittle. If we're talking about people that I'd be worried about on that offense, it would be Kittle because it's like this guy's allergic to touchdowns. Like the volume he gets, like last year, just based off volume, he should have had 8 to 9 touchdowns. He had 5. This year, he had the 2 called back, but obviously they don't count, so he has 0.
Right. Yeah, very true.
Like it's that would be a guy that I'd be worried about because if you got him this year, leading up, you drafted him this year, you drafted him to be a Kelsey type.
Right.
And right now,
Ah,
where was he at on my list? I know he didn't make the top 6 when I put him in. Kittle's tight end 15 right now.
yep.
That's standard. It's probably different in PPR. Kittle is 10 though. 10. Will Disley is ahead of him right now. And this is why okay, so I'm looking at this, right? Evan Ingram, number 1, Mark Andrews, number 2, Darren Waller, number 3. So you know what? All my stuff's non-PPR. That's great. I love that I put non-PPR on there. That's standard, guys. All the people left because they're like, what are these? These aren't real.
Mm,
Um, uh, okay, but in PPR, Ingram, Andrews, Waller, Kelsey, Olsen, Hooper, Walker, Disley, Ertz. So Ertz and Kittle, 2 guys that were top 3 rounds, are 9 and 10 on the tight end rank. This is why I will not take tight ends high in drafts. Kelsey's number 4. you can find value at tight end, and it's so volatile. It's such a volatile position. It's so TD. Like, most of the guys need that. Obviously, Waller, I don't think he's got a touchdown this year, but he gets targeted 14 times a game. So he's just all volume.
Right.
Kittle's volume. Ingram can do everything. Ingram's a monster. I was a year early. I called him for top 3 last year. I think he's going to
number
be top
2
3
right
this
now.
year.
Yeah.
He's number 1 right now.
Oh, is he number 1? I'm about to say, I thought he was number 2.
He's got 8 more fantasy points than Mark Andrews. He's averaging 20.9.
Yeah. There's one league where I've got both Andrews and Ingram, and I got a guy that keeps trying to get him off me, and I'm like, I don't know, man.
Think about that. You spent twice the draft capital on him as you did on Kittle as you did on Ingram, right? Because
right.
Ingram was probably in the 6th, 7th round, and Kittle was probably in the 3rd.
Oh yeah.
And right now, obviously, it's 3 weeks, but it's a quarter of the way through the season, fantasy season.
Right.
You are looking at half the production for Kittle as for Ingram, and this is why I say that. And it's the same with quarterbacks. It's so volatile. The difference is so small between them that, you know, even if you waited for Delaney Walker in round 15 and he averages 12 points, like, the top end guys are going to average, 16 to 18 typically. Like, that difference in value there is not the same as if you take a wide receiver in that spot and flip it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just can't pay that much for guys.
Yeah, no. I've waited in most cases.
Shanahan's offense features split ends. Only wide receiver that fits the bill in San Francisco is Debo, which has shown. Shanahan will just feature running backs. We talked about this Sunday night on the podcast. The only thing that I feel secure about is that multiple running backs are going to be involved in that offense. Okay, so let's look at. I haven't seen any more pop up. What matchups are you looking at? Like running backs versus defenses, wide receivers versus defenses. What are you looking at that you really like this week? Players that you. We didn't even get into players that were doing good that we thought would fail sooner rather than later. Do we want to do that, or do we want to look at some of these matchups? Let's talk about the future failures, because these people can sell high and get out before Sunday.
So just looking at probably a big one. I guess it depends. Well, it's obviously format dependent, but like I would want to sell like I've never been a big Dak guy, so I would try to sell a guy like Dak. I just don't. I know he's doing well, and it looks like things are working for him, but man, I've just never been a big fan of his. I don't know what it is about his game, but it seemed like there's always just something that's just. It's kind of just a gut feeling, which I know is not always a great way to go, but I've just never been a big Dak guy. For a long time. Go ahead.
No, I thought you were done.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, people have to realize that week 1 he faced the Giants. Horrendous secondary.
Right.
Week 2 faced Washington. Horrendous secondary.
Week 3 got even easier. And that was actually his lowest output.
Right. Week 3, the Dolphins. He hasn't played anybody yet.
No, and he really won't. This week he's facing the Saints. They've been a little soft.
You have to pay attention to who guys are facing, right? Like, yeah, Trubisky, 3 touchdown passes, first half. Redskins. Nobody gives a shit. Like, that doesn't tell us anything. That literally tells us nothing. Taylor Gabriel had more touchdowns in that game, or as many, as he had the previous 2 seasons. It means nothing. Okay? Right. So I'm not just saying that because it's Dak. Like, but you have to play somebody good before you can, move up a tier. And if I was gonna match up and say, hey man, I want my quarterback to break, quarterback records, those would be 3 teams I'd have on my schedule
Right.
for sure. So I want to see it against
Good
some good
competition.
competition before especially before I eat crow on it, because I've never been a dat guy either. But we're gonna see that Green Bay coming up, but then he gets New York Jets and Philly, who both have suspect secondaries. Then the Giants again. Jesus, this is such
Yeah,
an
no.
easy. I want my quarterback playing this schedule. But then he gets Minnesota, then Detroit again, or Detroit, and they're not good. But then he gets New England, Buffalo. Obviously, Chicago funnels the pass, but they don't give up a bunch of touchdowns. Um, and Rams, but then finishes with Philly and Washington. So, for one, that whole division has soft secondaries.
Yep.
Even Dallas, their secondary is the best out of the group, but they're not like you can throw on the Cowboys. Their linebackers and line are their strength.
Yep.
But you know, yeah, I want to see something other than Giants, Redskins, Miami before I go giving awards out here. Um, that same thing. Okay, we're gonna flip over to wide receiver, Marquise Brown.
Oh yeah.
I was writing up my DFS article that I posted tonight for my GPP picks, right? And
Hmm.
Marquise Brown's actually on there, but he has had the same thing to start this season, right? The secondaries that they have faced, I'm pulling up Baltimore right now, are teams that we are going to target every week.
Yeah, Miami, and I mean they've had plenty of weak targets. Or
Yeah, that same Miami team we talked about, Kansas City and Arizona.
you know,
Arizona doesn't even have their best 2 corners right now. Patrick Peterson
still
still on
suspended. Yeah.
suspension, and then the other one's hurt. So when you look at this, okay, he didn't even have a good game versus Kansas City, but you can kind of give him a break. That game was wet, and unless your quarterback's Mahomes, that makes it harder. Mahomes apparently doesn't matter. Just run, and I'll get you the ball. Um, but uh, but yeah, so his matchup right now, I think they think is Denzel Ward going to be out again?
Yeah, it's still up and down.
If Ward is out, then he has another soft matchup this week.
Yep.
If Ward's in, that changes everything, and we get to see really how this kid plays
It's shut
when he
down.
faces a professional cornerback.
He gets shut
Um,
down. It just is.
so, it's just another one of those situations where he has literally faced nothing so far. And people are real high on him. And yeah, maybe he's better than we thought he was going to be. Maybe he was better than a late first, early second round pick. But we need to see some professional cornerbacks first and first.
I would agree. I would agree. I think my next one would probably have to be. Well, see, and that's yeah. It would. I'm probably going to have to go now that we've had this Gordon news. I'd probably have to say Austin Eckler. Uh,
That's too easy.
well, I know, but the other one I was thinking of was DJ Shark. Like he's a guy that I would sell.
I talked you right into
Well, no,
being worried about Shark.
well, oh no, I'm not worried about him, but the guy just can't. He can't keep up this kind of production. Like he just is not going to be this regular producer. He's getting a decent amount of targets, but right now his value is very high. Like I'm watching guys talk about trying to trade for him in leagues, and people want a first for him and stuff that I'm like, no, I wouldn't pay that for him. Like that's just odd. But if you can get him, if you can get a first, I'd sell him immediately.
See, I don't know, because I do think that Shark can be productive and help your fantasy team. I don't think you have to sell him just because he's where he's at right now, because the price you got him at was so cheap. I don't think people are going to really give you, like, they're going to give you a first, but then you're getting a question mark
Well,
even if
sure,
you get a
yeah,
first. So
right.
it's not like I don't see anybody. Well, I don't know. Somebody
Oh,
might give you digs for him
that's
because
retarded. That's
apparently that's a
ridiculous.
thing.
You can't do. That's got to be a
But
veto.
no, there's no vetoes. No
They
vetoes.
need to bring that back for a crazy trade like that.
No.
Well, who would you rather? Okay, so we just talked about two young receivers. Long term, who would you rather have, Brown or Chark?
Brown.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
I'm going to talk about a third one because Mr. Terry McLaurin, who has done stuff that nobody's ever done, is going to come back to reality at some point.
Right.
I do think that he's good, and he's definitely better than I thought he was. He looked really good in that game the other night. I like the way he moves, his size, his speed, everything. He is going to be a guy, but right now he's on a pace that you can't sustain, and you want to know why? Because he's the first person in NFL history to do it.
Right. Very true.
5 receptions and a touchdown in his first 3 games. You can't sustain that.
No, not at all.
Never happened before. Literally never happened before. That means it can't continue on and on and on and on. So
No, not long term. Well, and Paul says in the chat, well, he says a few different names, but he says AJ Brown question mark. So Paul, are you saying AJ Brown is a guy you would try to sell? Because I don't know that he's like I don't think his value's really increased a ton. I mean, he looked good in a game, but it's if you're saying sell him, I don't know that you'll really get much more than what you paid for him.
no, the AJ Brown doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not sure what he's saying.
Yeah, he also says Larry Fitzgerald, which any older player like that, if he's got value for a little while, I mean, you can sell him. Might as well. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
but
had Fitz owners.
You have to get a real offer for him though. I got offered Demarcus Robinson. I don't want any of it. I'll wait.
Yeah, no.
I got offered Keyshawn Johnson from Arizona
Yeah.
for Fitz. I don't want it.
I don't really know that you'll get I mean, like for what value he'll provide for your team this year. I don't know why you'd wait. Might as well just let him retire on your team. You're not going to get.
Well, I'm 0-3. I'm 0-3 in that league, and I have him and Bell and Hilton. So it's not a team that you wanted to be 0-3 with. So I need to move them, but I want something that I think is actually going to be, professional caliber. Demarcus Robinson's only going to be valuable when Hill or Watkins is hurt. But the AJ Brown bit I don't understand because he had the 100 yards in one game, but he hasn't had like a huge week like these other guys we're talking about. I think he's a buy.
Yeah, I think
it. I think what people are thinking right now is, oh, he had that one game, but this is more what we're going to see with him with Mariota. Like literally right now, if I had Marquise Brown, I would probably send offers for AJ Brown.
Oh yeah, AJ Brown's a better talent by far. Would you? So
well, I don't know if we can say by far now because I don't think that Hollywood Brown's not talented, but like we talked about this air yard stuff, right? Did you look at his?
No, I haven't.
Go take a look at his and tell me how unsustainable it is.
So it must be ridiculous then.
Baltimore. For one, his ADOT is 17.3 yards on 27 targets, which is just unbelievable. His air yards is 466 in 3 games. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's seeing 25% of the market, the targets, and 41% of the air yards for that offense. So it's unsustainable, guys. I'm not saying that he can't be productive, but that is not going to continue. He's going to have to learn to catch the ball in the intermediate part of the field and not be taking, that much air yards for every pass. Like, it's just not sustainable.
Absolutely.
Derrick Henry. Hey, Uncle Rick and Daddy Brad. We got Titty Boy McGee over on Twitch. He hollered at me Sunday morning, I think, right at the end of the stream before the game started. He said, "Hope everything's going well. It's going well for me. I'm very happy. Can't wait to get off this podcast because I didn't realize we've been going for an hour and a half."
We will not be talking about this week's slate of games. That's for sure.
Some matchups. I'll tell you some matchups I like just because I wrote this DFS article. So here's my question: is Slay gonna play in Detroit? And if Slay plays, is he gonna shadow Sammy or is he gonna be on the outside?
No, if he plays, he'll be shadowing, or he should be shadowing Sammy. But with that hamstring, I mean, I can't imagine him playing this week.
I couldn't imagine him either, and I still think with a cornerback with a hamstring, with 3 wide receivers that run 4-3, I don't have a problem targeting that guy. Normally, I will stay away from Slay all day. Maybe the best cover corner in football, but he works out of the slot. He'll cover the slot guy.
Yes, sometimes it really depends on the matchup. But now that we have Justin Coleman, you're seeing less of it this year. Like Justin Coleman's a really good slot corner. So that's changed some this year. But he shadowed Keenan Allen wherever Keenan Allen was on the field. So
okay,
it depends on the receiver, but you'll still see some of it.
Well, Watkins was a matchup that I like, and especially, I mean, even if Slay's on him in that game,
hard to pick against KC in anything right now. I mean,
well, right, but
Detroit's defense isn't bad, but they'll eat him up.
Watkins is getting the target share, and
yeah.
Hardman did his work on 2 targets last week or something.
Yep.
Or on 2 receptions. I think he had 4 targets or something.
Yeah.
But Titty Boy McGee says, keep up the great work, guys. Been checking out your site and all of that. You guys put out good content, no joke. The dream will come true. You know what? I appreciate that. That is
a good thing to hear.
We are literally like far gone from the early days of Titty Boy McGee in whatever that first conversation was that we had. So I really appreciate it.
It was sketch at first, but that's a good one.
I like that. I like that.
It's going on the website in our testimonials. Titty Boy McGee says.
That's our first testimonial.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, Watkins facing Slay with a bad hamstring, I'll take it.
Yep.
He says, I'll always remember that first convo.
When he finally got to build a relationship with his father. Delightful.
Right. Definitely. I'm glad you found him. This dude is probably like some huge dude with a big beard. Like, he's probably like,
me.
Beach ripped. California beach ripped. He's
me.
Out there in his tank tops, lifting weights, watching us.
On Twitch?
Yeah.
He's wearing a Gold's Gym tank top, eh?
Hanging out with Mark Wahlberg and The Rock.
I dig it.
Tell The Rock he should have got me on Ballers. It feels good to be united. Okay,
what other plays do you like?
Well, when we flip it, I like Galladay and Marvin Jones in that game. I think both of those guys have good matchups this week. If you're looking at DFS, you're going to want to play Marvin Jones because Galladay is going to be much higher owned. Mm-hmm. It looks like that may come down throughout the week, and that may switch. But right now, Marvin Jones is cheaper and projected for very low ownership. So you can get leverage on Galladay by playing Marvin Jones. And we know that they can both have good weeks, but Marvin Jones is always capable of outscoring him. Marvin Jones, he's a little deeper of a target, so he can hit for you real big. We've got who else did I write up? You know what? Just go read the article. It's on rotoheat.com. It's my DFS wide receivers. All of them have good matchups. I like them all. Yeah, those are some of them. Running backs I haven't written up, though, but I like Marlon Mack. And dare I say it?
Are you going to say Rojo?
No.
Oh.
No, absolutely not.
Wow.
No. Devonta Freeman, a guy that I'm not real big up on. He actually has a good matchup, but it depends on Ito and if Ito's in or out. Kamara for Ingram, Connor Ingram.
Mark Ingram, James Conner.
Okay,
Evan
if
Ingram.
this is season long, I'm taking that deal.
Yeah.
If this is just redraft, I'm taking that deal. You get a top 3 tight end. I think Connor's going to be better, and Mark Ingram right now he's the guy that's going to punch in those touchdowns. Adam Rosen, YouTube's livening up now. We're gonna have to stay on. Adam Rosen says, "How's Sammy's matchup for this week?" It's weird because we think that Slay would be covering him, but he's got a bad hammy, so he may not play. And even if he does,
he's going to be slower.
So, any of those Kansas City wide receivers, I love. Did you see that Fast and Furious mock poster with those guys on it? They all run like a 4.3, sub 4.4.
Yep.
All of them. So it's not a good matchup to have a bad hamstring on. So yeah, I like Sammy's matchup this week. He's in my write-up on rotoheat.com. Marquise Brown was on there. Who else did I have on there? DK Metcalf was on there. But you can get all the details on rotoheat.com in that article. Paul must feel left out. We were talking to Titty Boy McGee, and then we were talking to YouTube, and Paul got quiet, which never happens.
Yeah, that happened.
Brad got quiet. Brad's busy
just
doing
checking.
Something else
I'm just looking on here to see if there's anything we missed.
Running backs, though, I talked about a couple of them. I'm pulling up the schedule again. I like Marlon Mack. I said that. I like, who else did I like? I haven't really dug into the running backs as hard this week. I don't like, well, I like, okay, so one, we talked about Dorsett earlier having a bad matchup, and Josh Gordon doesn't have a very good matchup with Wallace and White in Buffalo. I think this is a game for Mr. James White. I think you'd see a lot of receptions out of the backfield. Brad's just checking his DMs. Let him be.
Gotta see if TB's sliding in the DMs.
I mean, you can't hate Wayne Gallman versus Washington. Washington's defense suspect.
Soft.
But flipping it on the other side, it could be a week Peterson actually punches one into the end zone, and gets you some fantasy points too. I'm trying not to start. Obviously, you're not sitting Dalvin Cook in season long. I'm avoiding him in DFS against Chicago.
All right, so I got so I don't know who's one of the guys that messages me on Twitter. Big Cheese. It appears that he's watching somewhere. I don't know what he's watching on. He wants to know what. So if you're a Barkley owner, what would you be willing to give Barkley up for? He says he's got multiple leagues where guys are trying to get Barkley from him, and he just doesn't really know how to value him because he loves him so much.
Do you want me to tell you?
He asked the question, so.
Do you want me to tell you? Because I literally just traded Saquon Barkley yesterday.
What'd you trade him for?
Blech. Well, let's just say that I knew Saquon brought back a good return. Okay? I knew that. But I got Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay.
Marquise Brown. And...
Oh, was this in the 96er?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think I saw that trade.
Did you see that trade?
Yeah, I think so. Funny thing is Zeke isn't that far behind him. It's like the package I saw, I went, whoa.
They're not that far back in ranking, because you got to put somebody second to fifth above behind him.
Right.
But like value wise, there is a sizable difference. Okay, so I gave up Barkley, Paul Richardson, and Gerald Everett, and I got Ezekiel Elliott, Marquise Brown, and Emmanuel Sanders. I will say the only reason why I made this trade, because I did not want to trade Saquon Barkley, but I made a $100 bet before the season against Brandon Cox, who talks a lot of shit. If you're a member of the Roto Heat community, you know this. We made a $100 bet, and I can't lose to him. So I had to trade Barkley in that league. I had to, because it was going to be, the league's only $22.
Right.
I was going to lose like almost 5 years of entry fees. But, obviously getting Zeke, if Marquise Brown is consistent, I get that. I did. I put Marquise Brown up immediately for trade. So I am going to try to get somebody to bite on him and get a running back to get a little deeper at running back in that league, because my wide receivers are good, and especially adding Sanders to that core. I've got AJ Green coming back. I got Odell. I think it's going to get better. My roster is running back suspect after Zeke. Odell, Marquise Brown, AJ Green, Adam Humphries for a fill-in, Calvin Ridley, Allen Robinson, Emmanuel Sanders, Josh Gordon. So I feel good. I feel good at wide receiver. Titty Boy McGee, do I think that Mahomes is going to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time? Sadly, there's nothing, absolutely nothing to suggest otherwise at this point. It's still really early to say, but that dude just does everything that you want.
He's ridiculous.
Everything that you want a quarterback to do. It's stupid. And somebody else had to bring him up and piss me off again, because every time I hear Patrick Mahomes, I think, and with a second pick of the 2017 draft, the Chicago Bears select Mitchell Trubisky.
Well, and after they traded up, like nobody was going to take Mitchell Trubisky at 2, but they traded up with San Francisco to get the pick like it was some sort of. There's no way San Fran was taking him. That just wasn't happening.
It disgusts me. It disgusts me. It disgusts me every time I hear that name now. I thought going into year 2 of this Nagy, I thought Nagy would be a better play caller. I thought Mitchell Trubisky would quit missing guys high down the field. It's like, he's great. 4 yards, he can hit you. Once he gets to 10, he overthrows you. And it's annoying as shit. Like, he even overthrew Gabriel on that one touchdown. Like, Gabriel had to, like, twist and turn and get himself in, and it's so frustrating as a Bears fan, because if we had a quarterback, we would be almost unstoppable. Nick Martinez says, need help on this trade. Zeke and Dalton for Matt Ryan, Mark Ingram, Melvin Gordon. Who has the upper hand here? I want to know how many. Yeah, I want to know how many quarterbacks you can play, Nick. How many quarterbacks can you play?
So this other one we got to answer too. So Adam Rosen's asking about playing Carson Wentz, who's playing Green Bay this week, or should he try to pick up a free agent? I'm not feeling good about Wentz against Green Bay, because Green Bay's defense has been disgusting so far.
Yeah, okay, so I talked about this in my article today when we were talking, and I mentioned it in a chat in the Facebook group. The Packers right now are the opposite of the Bears on defense. Okay, the Bears are going to funnel the passing game, so you're going to be able to pick up fantasy points when you're playing your wide receivers against Chicago. Green Bay's the opposite. Okay, they are right now the number one team in giving up points to the running back, and we know in Week 1 they didn't give up a bunch to Chicago because Chicago ran the ball 12 freaking times. They did get some PPR points in that game, but that's what they do. They'll funnel the run, but they're stopping the pass. So they're hard to pass against, not giving up many points to wide receivers and stuff. So I would avoid streaming a quarterback against them. If you can pick up Stafford and put him in that KC game, I would probably rather do that than play Wentz against Green Bay.
That's what I said.
Nick says it is a 1 QB. If it's a 1 QB, then you're basically saying, is Mark Ingram and Melvin Gordon enough to trade Zeke away? I would have to know the rest of your construction, because here's the thing is one player, if you're struggling at running back in redraft, like you may need to do that. Because one running back isn't going to do it, and if you don't get lucky and get the waiver on a breakout running back, then you're screwed. And Dynasty, There's no way in hell I'm doing it.
No.
So if it's redraft, then I could consider it, but if you have anybody else at running back and can avoid doing it, then I would. But here's the thing we're seeing this year so far. With this new offense in Dallas, Elliott is not getting that passing work that he was getting the second half of the season last year. When he was seeing 5, 6, 7 targets a game, that's a lot of value you lose with him not getting it, and that's why I wasn't very happy about trading for him with my Barkley shares, because we know Barkley's going to get 80 receptions a year. And then Christopher Garza says, you afraid of Eckler now that Melvin Gordon is back? I mean, you're obviously not going to get the same production, but I still think that he's going to be able to help your team, and you didn't draft him as your running back 1 or 2, most likely. So he should still be able to fit that role that you drafted him for. That's my opinion. Brad?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would. I'm not afraid of Eckler with Gordon back. He's still a guy that I would keep on my roster.
Nick says, I own Zeke and Dalton, but I really am considering this trade for Mark Ingram, Matt Ryan, and Melvin Gordon. I'm struggling at consistent QB play. You can stream QBs, bro. If it's season long, just stream QBs. Don't trade Zeke. I know Mark Ingram's had 5 touchdowns in 2 of the games. Okay, his stats look really good. That's going to come back to earth. We talked earlier in the stream. The defenses they've played are defenses that you wish your fantasy players played against all year long.
Every week.
See, when Dallas gets into the games that they really need, that's when Zeke becomes Zeke.
He goes into Zeke mode very quickly.
That's where we could see him get involved more in the passing game too. Is Todd Gurley going to step it up this week or even soon? We talked about that earlier in the pod. I'm probably not even going to post this podcast because it's going to be really long. So we'll probably just, if somebody wants to watch it, they can go to YouTube and watch it.
It's not like you could cut it off after we did the guys that we want to sell.
We just blabbered the whole night just talking stuff anyway. We already dropped one this week, and we don't need to add this mess to it. We were talking about Gurley, talking about how he just needs more touches, and then literally as we were talking about it, I got a notification on my phone that the Rams said that they want to move from this 15 touch per game to the 25 touch per game that we're used to. So if the Rams give us that, then we're in good shape. So I'm hoping that they at least move him to the 20 touch range this week.
Yeah, that's the hope. Gurley should come back though. He should continue to get better and better.
Paul, I'm not arguing with Green Bay having an elite player at every level, but Green Bay right now has given up more fantasy points to the running back than any other team in the league, and that's just how their offense works. But they're shutting down the pass. Like, people are not passing on. The Bears passed 45 times and had 0 success. Which that's Trubisky, but I mean, it's been the same way every week.
Everybody.
When Cousins had no success in that game. Denver had no. Oh, they played really bad quarterbacks, so maybe Wentz can have better luck. So they've played some bad quarterbacks.
So what Adam was really hoping for is, can Carson get something like 17 points? It's entirely possible, but with a guy like Stafford out on your waiver wire, I just put him in anyway. KC's defense we know is softer against the pass, and they're going to need to be passing the ball. Like, Casey's going to be tearing them up.
Yeah, so
Casey tears up.
This is what, especially because I'm weird because I'm on both sides of the spectrum, right? Like, I am real deep into Dynasty and I'm real deep into DFS, and the one thing that people forget, no matter where they're at, is that volume equals points, right? Who's going to throw the ball the most? Obviously, Carson Wentz is going to have to throw, but we're talking about a Green Bay offense that is bottom 3 in a lot of categories. Green Bay's offense has not hit yet, so if it doesn't hit, then this could be a tight end game for Carson Wentz, and Jordan Howard could rush in 2 or 3. Right. What we do know, and what we absolutely what's not going to happen is Detroit, even though they have a better defense than I thought they were going to have, shutting out Kansas City. Because as we've seen with them facing off against Baltimore and Jacksonville already, is that nobody shuts out Kansas City. So Stafford's going to have to sling it. It's going to be an old school Stafford game where he just slings it. And I like every weapon in this game. Hawkinson, who has had to block the last 2 games, is going to be running wild too. Kerryon Johnson out of the backfield. He's going to have to be more involved in the passing game this week. I want all the Detroit I can get. I'm even putting Stafford in my GPP lineups and my player pool there. Who would you trade for Aaron Rodgers? I either give him Mark Andrews or Waller. I mean, if it's a 1 QB, I would just quit worrying about QB. I would save those guys. Like, right now, you can literally play Mark Andrews and Waller, and it gives you more of an edge than it gives you getting Aaron Rodgers or anybody at 1 QB that's not named Mahomes. Everybody else is so close together. Aaron Rodgers hasn't even put up 20 points this year yet, so they're running the ball more too. Their defense is better. They're going to continue to run the ball more. They will get more effective in the passing game, but I would hold those guys that are getting volume.
For sure.
Devin Smith or Preston Williams? I have Michael Gallup. Are you talking as a trade? Because I like both of them, but I'd go Preston Williams.
Yeah.
Just because Devin Smith, the only reason why Devin Smith isn't well known right now is because of his knee injuries that he had early in his career when he was a New York Jet. He's a talented guy out of Ohio State, 2nd round pick, but definitely had injuries. You falling asleep over there, bro?
No, I'm just trying to get the start sit stuff ready because I'm going to record start sit video after this. I'm going through and making sure we got this all together.
Did we have enough questions for it?
I'm just going through. I didn't look at your polls yet. And that's what I'm going
they only put up 4. So you guys got to get over to our start sit video every week and ask some questions because we make that up. We have everybody on the team vote. We have 10 guys on the team voting on those start sit. So it's not just one guy saying, yeah, I would play this guy. Yeah, I do. I like Gallup too. Once again, I want to see Dak versus good defenses, though. Terry McLaurin or Tyler Boyd. I would like to play Scary Terry so I don't regret it if he pays well. I would like to think I have faith in a top 15 wide receiver by the end of the season. What do I do? I'm playing McLaurin this week because he gets Janoris Jenkins. And
Oh
Janoris
gosh.
Jenkins is not good anymore. He used to be
Yep.
really good.
No.
He's not good anymore. So I definitely don't. This isn't the week to jump off the Terry McLaurin train. And then who is it? Cincinnati plays
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Yeah, I mean I don't mind
He
Tyler
gets
Boyd
okay.
either, but right now he needs AJ Green to come back. He needs AJ Green to come
Gotta
back.
take some of them double coverages away.
Auden Tate had 14 targets last week. Auden Tate.
Yeah.
You know you're desperate when Auden Tate gets 14 targets or whatever it was. Was it 14?
It was a ridiculous amount of touches.
Cincinnati 12. 12 targets. Sorry. Close. Any thoughts on Keyshawn Johnson for week 4? You know what? I think he's 5th in line in that passing game. Unless somebody's out that I don't know about. But I think it goes Fitz,
Okay, put it out.
Kirk, and they're like 1A, 1B. And then it goes David Johnson, and then it goes Dwayne Bird, and then Keyshawn Johnson. So I'm not throwing him in my lineup. How do you see the Melvin Gordon situation playing out the rest of the season? Well, YouTube. Apparently, we need to start late for YouTube. We talked about this earlier at the beginning in our news and notes. I said that he's probably going to get 60% of the work. Brad thinks it could be closer to 50-50. Eckler has earned himself a bigger role no matter what. So Melvin Gordon also ended last year with both of his knees in braces. We have no idea how he's going to move. Maybe taking extra time off worked and helped him. I don't know, but I'm not. This is a guy that was not consistent his first few years, or not efficient his first few years. It was all volume based. So if he doesn't get the volume, you're looking at probably a mid running back 2, potentially a running back 3 without the volume, unless he's efficient like he was last year. He was really efficient last year,
Right.
but that's 1 out of 4.
True story.
Paul probably thinks I do it on purpose, but I don't. But he's quit knocking his Florida State guys. I'm not.
You probably didn't realize
I'm
Tate
not
was Seminole.
knocking on Tate, but because I think Tate, he's another raw talent guy. Size definitely has the size, but
Big
when
kid, yeah.
Cincy's giving him 12 targets, there's an issue with their receiving core. So, go from 0 targets to 12 targets.
Allen Robinson. So Average Scrub says trying to get rid of Allen Robinson Sutton, but don't want to drop them. Don't get rid of Allen Robinson or Cortland Sutton. He asks any trade suggestions or just hold on to them. I would say hard hold. I like both of them.
I'm
a lot.
obviously the Allen Robinson stuff. Trubisky's got to get better. Allen Robinson is a really good wide receiver, and right now it's
Look what he did to Green Bay.
yeah. When Trubisky actually hits him, he catches it, and he does get open, and Trubisky misses him too. So it's not just Anthony Miller, even though that one makes me really really mad. But here's the other thing, right? I told people earlier a cool website that I use to kind of see, players that are getting an opportunity and maybe not succeeding to that level. Cortland Sutton's one of them, and Cortland Sutton, another guy that was good against the Bears. Receivers against the Bears, you just play them. But Cortland Sutton seeing some downfield targets. They've faced some good defenses to start the year too, with the Bears and the Packers, and they never play well in Oakland. But you have to think that once this defense starts, doing a little better, it's going to help the offense too. Um, right now, that whole team's just not playing well. So I like Courtland Sutton a lot, a lot, and I think him and Flacco are like a match made in heaven. When Flacco's not running for his life, because he's not the guy that can run around and avoid sacks. So
Yep.
Demetrius Harris worth a stash over Frank Gore. I would need to know season long or DFS, or Dynasty, I mean. Um, but no, probably not anywhere. Just because Frank Gore we know is going to get touches because Buffalo likes old running backs.
The older, the better. Adam also says, is Larry Fitzgerald going to stay consistent as he's been, or is it too risky to play him this week?
I'm playing every offensive weapon in that game. That Seattle-Arizona game, give me Tyler Lockett, give me Will Dissly, give me DK Metcalf, and then go on the other side, give me Larry Fitzgerald, give me Kirk, give me David Johnson, and
Even near Bird might be.
maybe, but the top three on each side, I guess I should say. Maybe even some Carson and Demir Bird sprinkled in there, if Carson doesn't fumble the freaking ball.
Ruski. Nick says, Golden Tate getting ready to come back. Any chance he has a big impact with Daniel Jones?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see why not. He would then step into being, arguably their second or third best receiver.
Slayton made an impact this week. Nobody even knew who he was before the game. I mean, we did because we're Dynasty guys. You may not have if you're not a Dynasty guy, but
yeah.
uh,
Jaws Wheaton was solid.
that
Sounds like you guys think Buffalo Bills bringing back Fred Jackson.
Dude, they may consider it.
If they can get him away from Seattle, because it seemed like him in Seattle were about it.
They may think about it. Ito Smith or Darrell Henderson. Is this a start sit or a trade question? Got to kind of let us know.
Neither. I'll say neither because Ito Smith's hurt right now, so I would not be starting him this week. And Darrell Henderson hasn't gotten used at all this year, so I would not be starting either of them if this is a start.
Yeah,
set.
I guess this would come down if it's Dynasty, Darrell Henderson, because Ito Smith's not.
Yeah. No, not a fan. Atlanta's running back of the future is not on the roster yet.
Nick, I don't think that he would surpass Shepard, but I think now that they have a quarterback, they can actually throw the ball and sustain three options in the passing game, especially with Barkley out.
Yeah, they're going to need to spread those targets around. And the nice thing is that, Tate can do almost out of the backfield running back type things. They can line them up and give them a short bubble screen.
Paul cracks me up. He gives the trivia question and the answer all in the same message. All right. Any last questions, guys? We're here in Indiana. It's 11:45. I don't know if you guys are watching on the West Coast or what. YouTube showing out late. It went. Facebook was live and everybody was on, and then Twitch was live for a little bit, and then YouTube. So everybody took their turn. I'm waiting on.
And we're not done yet. As soon as we're done, we go back to work for other Roto Heat stuff. So.
I'm not.
Oh, well, I am. I've got to record some videos.
I'll get them up in the morning. What was I going to say? You interrupted me rudely, and now I don't remember what I was going to say. I don't even think I clicked record on the podcast anyway. So.
No, it says Rick's recording.
Oh, really? Delete. Yeah. Control Alt Delete.
You get some good. You get some good bloopers out of here. Average Scrub, who do you think gets wide receiver one opportunities, Tate or Shepard? Well, Shepard's their wide receiver.
Shepard's their one. But they're both, I'm telling you, right now, without Barkley in, if they throw the ball 30 times, it's probably going to be, 10 to Shepard, 10 to Ingram.
10 to Tate.
8 to Tate, and then maybe 2 to the backfield.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be a very concentrated offense on those 3 guys, though.
Well, they have to. It's really what they've got.
And running the ball, but I mean, when it comes to passing, it's going to be very concentrated on those 3. No, I was going to say, don't forget, you know, Sully's 2 Cents podcast drops a couple episodes every week. So he's probably going to be dropping one any time now. He might have dropped it while we were on this stream. And then Sunday mornings from 10 to, how do I do this? From 10 to 11 a.m., I am live on Facebook, Twitch, everything we're right now, everywhere right now, YouTube, from 10 to 11. And then I move over to the VIP group from about 11:15 till 12 to 12:30, depending on how active everything is. Subscription to the website's $2.99 a month. It helps us keep everything going. And we have shirts on the website and all that fun stuff. I'm so tired right now, dude, and that's why I said I ain't editing no videos tonight.
The nice thing is that subscription gets you more than just being able to talk to Rick for an hour and a half Sunday mornings. It gets you ADP content. It gets you lots of statistics stuff to help you out.
I'm going to start charging you $2.99 to talk to me on Wednesday nights for 2 hours.
Oh, you're worth triple that. You're easily a $9 a night service.
Whoa. $10 holla.
Oh. Rick is now the new holla back girl.
Go ahead. We didn't get any more questions. Do that sales pitch, Brad. I'm not interrupting you anymore. I am muting myself, and I'm done for the night. Thanks, everybody. Sales pitch, Brad.
All right. So for those of you that are hanging out with us, thank you for sticking around. For Rick, myself, the rest of the team, we thank you. RotoHeat.com is the hub of all things. You know, we put up weekly analysis, so I break down like the AFC South and NFC South games, give you guys to think about. There's lots of other writers on there. If you're interested in doing fantasy football content, whether it's video, whether it's streaming, whether it's writing, hit up the website, RotoHeat.com. There's a way for you to send Rick a message and get going on that. We would love to add new content creators. RotoHeat's a great place for you to get into the fantasy business. For the $2.99 subscription that Rick mentioned earlier, you get the pleasure of talking to him, as well as a lot of statistical information. We do monthly mock drafts, so whether you're offense, defense, we're mock drafting on a monthly basis. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. But definitely check us out. Rick and my Twitter accounts are on here, but the RotoHeat Twitter is at RotoHeatFantasy. Over on Twitter, that's the place where we're pushing out information as much as possible. Go to Facebook.com, look for RotoHeat. You can find our community there, which is growing. I literally approve guys every day for joining our community. We're well over the 1,500 mark, and I think we're getting close to 2,000 members in the group. Stick here to YouTube. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe so you can get all our updated information. We do player breakdowns. We do weekly start sits, all sorts of stuff. So thank you guys again. For Rick and the rest of the team, have a good night, and we'll talk to you Sunday.
I do want to say we might have to break up Wednesday nights into 2 segments. And I feel like
Rick and Brad's rambling, actual fantasy help.
I feel like our YouTube channel, like Joz Whedon says, I'll try to have more questions ready. I'm cooking dinner. So he's obviously on the West Coast. So it's like 8 o'clock there, 9 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock. What are you eating dinner at 9 o'clock for? Okay, that's it.
No, West Coast could be 3 hours. It is 9 o'clock. Yeah, what are you eating dinner at 9 o'clock?
Why are you trying to correct me when I'm already right?
Because it's almost midnight here, and my brain processes a lot slower. I know. I nailed the sales pitch. I laid down some quality content. People are probably subscribing right now, and that's all I have. That's the best I have.
We have 0 viewers now. Thanks.
We got 4